Joshua Dent says, Psalm 211, what does the psalmist mean by this verse in its non-messianic context? Psalm 2:12. Okay, we're going to read all of Psalm 2 to get the context here. So, again, this is thinking biblically is about just going back and reading the whole passage all the time. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. The anointed here is going to be the ruling king whom God is setting up to rule over the other kings of the earth. And they're rejecting and rebelling against him. So there's an obvious messianic context here. Let us burst their bonds apart and cast away their cords from us. So we don't want them to rule. We want to run our own lives. He who sits in the heavens laughs, and the Lord holds them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, as for me, I've set my king on Zion, my holy hill. So all this is about, there's this Jewish king God is putting on Zion, and that king is going to rule over all of the nations. He'll be the Jewish, Israel leader who rules over all the earth. That he's the head, not the tail, so to speak. This is obviously ultimately about Jesus. No other Jewish king could be said to have ever fulfilled this, truly. I will tell of the decree. The Lord said to me, you are my son. Today I've begotten you. And there's a connection to the sonship that's here. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage and the ends of the earth your possession. This king is going to control all of the world. You shall break them with a rod of iron and dash them in pieces like a potter vessel. Now, therefore, O kings, be wise. Be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. And I love this. Verse 12 is one of my favorite verses. Kiss the Son. And this here, it's not romantic. It's yielding, a yielding submission with like a sense of loyalty, fealty, obedience, not just like cowering, but instead of fighting against you, I yield to you. I give my love to you in a good sense. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish in the way, for his wrath is kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. Okay, so in its non-messianic context, if you take away the messianic stuff, it's got a bunch of holes in it. And this is the case in a lot of scripture. A lot of the Old Testament will have statements that even though they're talking about descendants of David, right, it just doesn't really work fully. It's incomplete. There's all these empty pieces until you see Jesus in this passage. And that's how it feels here. If it's just about, say, Solomon, then it's beyond hyperbole, right? The nations are raging and the people are plotting a vain thing. Like, when did all the kings of the earth, because David's writing, if this is about Solomon coming in, then assuming David's writing this, then what is the point of all the kings of the earth fighting against him and wanting to come against him, and how he's going to take possession of all the ends of the earth? This is set in the overall prophetic drama of Israel and what God has done and will do in the future, ultimately through Israel. It feels much bigger than any one king Israel's ever had. That's what I'm suggesting. Outside of the messianic context, the passage feels like such extreme hyperbole that it stops making a lot of sense. When you look at it in the lens of Christ, you go, it makes total sense. Your personal obedience to Christ is the thing that will save you and bring you into his kingdom instead of being judged. Because here he is waiting on you to come and yield to him, to stop fighting him, to stop coming against him. And that makes all the sense in the world to me.